Happy almost Thanksgiving and welcome to the OnStage Colorado podcast. I'm your host, Alex Miller, and in this episode, we're going to be talking with Allison Watrous, the driving force behind the Denver Center Theater Company's education division and the director of the wonderful new kids show playing at the Conservatory Theater downtown, a musical adaptation of the beloved children's book, Goodnight Moon. Before we get to that, I'd like to remind everyone that the holiday season is upon us, and in the theater world, that means things are kicking into high gear. We've been adding holiday shows like crazy to our calendar, and there's a separate category on our website to let you find one near you very easily. Check it out on the website at onstagecolorado.com. Also on the website, we've got new reviews of Mamma Mia at BDT Stage in Boulder, The Full Monty from OpenStage Theater Company in Fort Collins, the Thanksgiving Play at Denver's Curious Theater, Tuesdays with Maury at Cherry Creek Theater, and lots more coming up, including Meet Me in St. Louis at Littleton Town Hall, a Broadway Christmas Carol at CU Boulder, 12th Night at the Denver Center, and Tiny Beautiful Things up in Silverthorne, to name just a few. You can find it all at onstagecolorado.com. And now, here's my interview with Allison Watrous. Okay, we're here with Allison Watrous, who's the Executive Director for Education here at the Denver Center. And so I wanted to come by and talk to you, Allison. I recently saw Goodnight Moon, as we were just talking about, and I got to see it with my oldest daughter and her two daughters. So the perfect demo for Goodnight Moon, the 4 and 7 years old. And I want to talk a little bit about the program first, and then we'll talk about Goodnight Moon. So now it's called Theater for Young Audiences, which is a relatively recent name for it. It started in 2017, I believe.
Yes.
So what's the program all about?
Well, Theater for Young Audiences is actually part of the national theater landscape. So there are many companies across the nation that have Theater for Young Audiences programming. And also, fun fact, Arts Equity has a Theater for Young Audiences contract. So it's like very recognized. And the Denver Center has done many Theater for Young Audiences shows within the theater company. So like Lord of the Flies was designed that way. The Giver was designed that way. But what this program, we really wanted to highlight for younger audiences, even younger than middle school or upper elementary. So really looking at that preschool to second grade, lower elementary age group. And especially when you start staging classic beloved children's stories, it can really tie in and promote literacy, especially for preschool and kindergarten. Because when a kindergartner can come and go, oh, what I'm connecting in my imagination connects to what words are on the page and what images are on the page. And I've become a stronger reader just in this hour of seeing this live theater experience, because I'm reading the composition of what is on stage. And I go, oh, that links to how I connect to the written word, which is really powerful. So then that really, I think, is the heart of the success, is how are we promoting literacy and strengthening visual readers and academic readers in the world and really moving that forward, which is really exciting.
Okay. And so how is that different from what the Denver Center, the Children's Theater Division has been here for many years? So. Oh,
absolutely. So the education team and department at the Denver Center has been active for almost 30 years. And really it started with how do we connect arts education to core curriculum. So that was really where the movement of arts integration was happening, like in the 1990s, and is still happening, where we work with teachers statewide to connect to their core curriculum. And a lot of the programming was about going out to schools. So we have a program called Shakespeare in the Parking Lot that performs Romeo and Juliet and A Midsummer Night's Dream in middle school and high school parking lots.
I just saw that, by the way.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, it was at the hospital. I live in Highlands Ranch.
Yes, at UC Health. That's great.
It was fantastic. I was like, it was
such
so
an amazing
good.
Team, and that's another one of the programs that's so close to my heart, and one that we've been developing over the last few years, and super exciting because it's the same mission, just like the Theater for Young Audiences program, is how do we make sure that students are having opportunities to see live theater, and especially of stories, incredible stories that they're studying and are part of curriculum. It's hard to sit down and read Romeo and Juliet.
Yeah.
And how does it really come off the page? And it was written to be spoken and to be performed. So it's very hard to read it as a text. Even, sitting down reading Coriolanus, I'm not going to make it. I'm not going to make it through. And I love Shakespeare. But to go see it and to hear it was designed to be heard. And I think that stories are really built that way. Obviously, storybooks are really meant to be heard and experienced and read. And that's why having them perform something like Goodnight Moon, which is so fun, because Goodnight Moon maybe takes you 3.5 minutes to read, maybe to your grandchildren. But then that Chad Henry's amazing adaptation just was like, what else could it be? And what other stories can live inside of it? And what songs? And really makes it vibrant. And it's a wonderful musical.
Yeah, it was fascinating to see because, I have 5 children and 2 grandchildren, so I've read Goodnight Moon
a few times probably in your life. Yeah,
times.
yes.
And sometimes I would fall asleep before I'd even get to the end of it. But I was curious to see how it was going to, be put into a full-fledged musical, and I thought it was really great the way he did it. So, but going back to kids in theater, how important is it? You talked about the sort of the literary aspect, but there are other advantages or benefits that kids get from seeing or performing live theater, and what are some of those?
Well, I think that it's how we view learning, and especially our work in the education department and here connected to a theater is how do you really promote a lifelong learner, of somebody that is so richly curious about the world. And we all know that art is reflecting the world all the time. So I think that these opportunities for young people just gives them that vocabulary of how do I start to look at the world and reflect my ideas back and have point of view within the world. That's powerful. And that's what art gives us. And it also promotes change in the world, that I can step inside someone's shoes through storytelling and really learn about empathy. I can learn about my creative capacities as a human being. I can learn the power of collaboration. We have so many great talks with students, and we have post-show workshops after every single performance. I just walked down the hall and heard all of them activated right now, where students get to have that experience of, how is it created? How do I get to step inside the story and be a part of it? How do I enter this world as a human being, as a storyteller? How do I put my voice in the world? Those are all those amazing soft skills that theater gives and the arts give. And I think it's just so important for young people to know that, yes, they're doing incredible learning within their classroom, but also that they'll be learners their whole lives. And what an incredible life that makes, that you might learn by coming to the theater. You might learn by going to the museum or going to the park, just how you experience the world. I think it's powerful.
And is it live performers who you think that's more accessible than like watching film or television? It's kind of a more opaque what that process is.
Yeah, I think it's also accessible because you get to see it kind of happen and unfold, and you get to see it live in the moment and really wonder how it works and how it was put together. And I feel like that experience is really palpable. And even it's been interesting going to see, movies, which I also think are so great, of like young people going to see, whatever the next Pixar is. Like, it's that's incredible storytelling. But there's a shift that happens in audiences that are seeing something live. Like, they lean in a way that is way different than something that they're seeing on the screen. Because for everyone in our world, screens are incredibly familiar. And that how can theater be a part of keeping the person to person and keeping that humanity really present for all ages, I think is powerful, to share this live experience. That's why I think, things like the Mission Ballroom are super, because people want to go to live experience to share in music and storytelling all together. Because we all are, screen. There's a lot of screens.
Yeah, it really is. It's so different, and you're there with a like-minded, a bunch of other people who are really into that band or theater or whatever it is. So, when I think about Goodnight Moon, and that's adults playing for children,
yes.
A lot of kids theater or, theater for children is children performing for children. How do you see those different in how the children experience a play?
Oh, that's a great question. And I think that it is also the power of imagination, of that we go on this journey and just say yes of, Rakeem is Bunny, even though Rakeem is an adult, but that is Bunny. And I just lean into that storytelling, and that if the narrative is strong and the construct is strong, that they will just lean in and absolutely go for it and go, absolutely, that bunny is 7 years old. It's a very large 7-year-old bunny, but that is a 7-year-old bunny.
Right.
Yeah.
He was great. He did a great job at that role.
Excellent as Bunny.
So, one of the things that we all know that, the landscape in our public schools with arts is kind of declining in some ways. So, whether it's theater program or band or whatever, how do you see a theater program like here at DCPA kind of helping fill that void?
Well, that's one of our main guiding principles and missions, is that we've joked for many years about, we'll know we're done when we've teached ourselves out of a job. That there's so much arts in public school that they'll be like, oh gosh, no, we're good. We've got so many arts programs and everyone has access and it's all great. And that we always partner with teachers so that, we could be an arts organization that has a philosophy of, oh, great, we'll talk to the school and say, you don't have a theater program. What we're going to do is we're going to come in and deliver that program for you. We'll be here for 10 weeks. We'll take care of it. You don't have to worry about it. You can check that box. But our goal is to partner with teachers and to build arts advocacy within schools so then the teachers have the tools to move it forward and can also be advocates with administration and the district level to say, hey, now look at what this is giving my students. And then hopefully the dream would be then there's an arts teacher that's placed in that school. And then we're working with them to build more arts programming across the board. So that's how we hope to strengthen is through partnership with teachers and always advocating for arts and education to be a part of education everywhere because it's so important.
Yeah. Well, that's a big job and it's a big state.
Big job.
A growing state.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. OnStage Colorado is the state's best place to find information about live theater. Our website at onstagecolorado.com has the most comprehensive calendar for live performances, not just in the metro area, but all around Colorado. That means you can find shows from Boulder to Breckenridge, Denver to Durango, and everywhere in between. Also, the OnStage Colorado review crew gets out to see many of the shows going on around the state. So if you'd like to know more about a show before you buy tickets, chances are we've got a review of it online you can read first. To keep on top of it all, subscribe to our weekly newsletter on the site. It comes out every Thursday and has the latest reviews, podcasts, and also a lineup of new shows opening around Colorado. Find it all on onstagecolorado.com. Be sure to subscribe to the OnStage Colorado podcast wherever you listen to your podcast. You can find it on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, and many other podcast platforms. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about Goodnight Moon. It's up now. We talked a little bit about it. It's running through February, I think,
yes,
right?
Middle of February.
And I think I read in John Moore's piece about it that there's over 200 performances and 45,000 tickets. And so, wow, can you fill those all going to sell out?
We're hoping.
Yeah.
So folks come. Yeah, please come. Yeah, and we're thinking of it in many different ways. So lots of student matinees and engaging as many students as possible and partnering with schools of all sizes and really looking at the metro area and beyond. We had a great school from Otis come 130 miles away, come and see it. So we're really hoping that as many schools can partake as possible, which is great. We have a really robust scholarship fund because we know that transportation can sometimes be an obstacle. So that the school can really step in and say, great, why don't we use our money to make sure that the students get there, and then we can support on the ticket side. So we're really working in partnership there to get as many schools here as possible. So if folks are interested, to please reach out because we still have a lot of openings, which is really great. And then, inviting families to share it, together on the weekends, which is really powerful. And we also have community performances where we're partnering with Denver Public Library to offer a couple community days. So those tickets will be shared through the library networks to just maybe reach more folks that maybe haven't had the, known that the Denver Center was doing this, or maybe haven't had the opportunity, or just didn't even know, or like, I'm not sure about that, and they want to give it a try. That's great. And those community performances are, we'll get the word out. And so that's another way that we're hoping to engage even more people to come.
Sure.
So 45,000 would be amazing, Alex. I hope that happens. That's my dream. It's doing really well.
Yeah. Well, I mean, every time I come by here, there's always a line of kids.
Lots of buses and lots of things happening.
And I believe the tickets are priced very reasonably.
Yes.
Like in the $10 to $15 range or something like that.
Yes.
So talking a little bit about the production itself, you directed Goodnight Moon. So can you describe that experience? It's a really, for those who haven't seen it, I guess I was thinking it was kind of like it almost looked like one of those kids' pop-up books, the set.
Absolutely.
Was that what you were going for?
Yes, yeah. And that the theater is perfect for this book because it's wide. The conservatory is a wide theater. It's a wide proscenium. And that Goodnight Moon with the great green room is that it just immediately, me and the set designer sat down together and was like, this is going to be perfect. And we wanted to get it as close to the audience as possible so that lean-in effect could really take place for the young person to go, oh, this was really made with me in mind. I feel at home here. It doesn't feel too big for me. Like I would imagine a 4-year-old in their first experience being in a theater like the Buell, that might feel too big and feel disconnected. But if they have their first experience in an intimate theater like the Weeks Conservatory, it gives them that opportunity to go, oh, yeah, this is this is really for me. So it was so perfect. And really, we constantly went back to that page in the book that is the expansive Great Green Room. Like literally we're like, okay, great. What's on the table? What's on the, and really wanted everyone that walked in to go, oh, I really get to walk into Bunny's room and this house and this world. And then our goal was always, and I think of it directorially, is I never want students to feel like theater is a place where you have to sit still and always face forward and you're kind of locked in your seat. That, especially with the vibrant music and what's happening, is that there were moments of movement for them, so that something might be happening behind you to your left. So you literally have to shift your body. So it's encouraging engagement, that something happens around you, light hits you, animals are talking to you, animals are coming down the, bears in chairs are coming down an aisleway that you get to respond across the theater. So it feels very 360. So that was another goal in the design.
Right.
And also that we wanted all the magic to be, one way you could do it is have puppeteers come on stage and lots of things happen that you could kind of see out in the open. But we're really interested in how do we create all the magic behind it and underneath it. So it was fully magical, and that mystery of how it all came together and is working is the part of their imagination that they get to kind of take that away and go, ooh, what was that?
Yeah. I was going to say the set is almost like a character unto itself.
Yes, that was our tech rehearsal. It was figuring out that character, be like, hold please, the fire's moving. Hold please, the cuckoo clock. Yeah, a lot of that.
And so you obviously worked very closely with the set designer.
Oh yeah, and the team here, and they've been partners throughout this whole entire growth of this program. So Lisa Orzalik is the director of scene design that's been with the theater company for years and years. We're great friends, and she's designed all 3 projects. It's awesome. And Kevin Copenhaver is the head of costume craft. So like the artistry that is coming forward on these productions is the best of the best. So Kevin's done the costumes for all 3 performances, from Snowy Day to Corduroy to Goodnight Moon. It's just been excellent. And Jason Ducat's been on the sound team. And then Charles McLeod has been leading in lights for the last 2 years, which the lighting for Goodnight Moon I just think is absolutely stunning.
It is, yeah.
So it's just that team. I couldn't do it. That creative team, and that's the beauty of the process of theater, is the team comes together to just tell the story, and that you're constantly asking each other, like, how can we make the story stronger?
Right. And so piggybacking from that, when you talk about like the set coming alive, which it really does, it's amazing. If for anybody, like most people know Goodnight Moon, you walk in there, it's like you're in the book. That's not something you can do with a lot of, you can try, but Goodnight Moon is really easy because, well, not really easy, but a little simpler because that wallpaper.
Oh, yeah. It leans itself to that in the primary colors and how vibrant it is. Absolutely.
Yeah. So some of them you might call special effects. There's the kitties coming out from under the bed. There's the moon moving. There's all this stuff that's happening. How important is that for little kids to have that kind of things happen to keep them engaged in the story?
Well, I think music is one of the main things that everybody leans in and goes, oh, this is great. That they're not only talking, but they're singing and music that's happening, and underscoring is a big piece of it too, that music just kind of moves it forward and keeps it really active. But I think that the magic of the environment is also huge for this, because it's like what you spoke to before, that pop-up book feel, and that children are so visual in that they're connecting to their imagination and they're constantly moving through images in their brain. So they probably have already goes like, what happens if the balloon moves? Like what? So then it like trying to be in conversation with them of like, oh, look at the magic of this. What do you think about this? This is what the cuckoo clock looks like. These are the socks and mittens moving. This is a large mouse coming towards you. Like what, and that I feel like just is fueling imagination. And we're so lucky we get to live in a career where we get to tell stories and constantly ask our imaginations questions. But I hope that they're asking their imaginations questions all the time, too.
How much of that stuff was in the script itself, like the bears coming out of the picture, the 3D picture, and then appearing?
Well, in the original, it articulates that they enter. And then we had the idea of what if the pictures were 3D and the stuffed animals kind of move and then they appear. So that was something that we kind of chatted about. But many things Chad articulates. But and it's sort of like those amazing moments like on the Academy Awards where they see like how the script page actually becomes what is the film.
Right.
So it would be kind of fun to even do that side by side with Goodnight Moon, like Chad describing the room, which he literally described the book. And then he at different moments is like, oh, the fireplace activates. So then we get to figure out, well, in this production, how does that happen? You know, and he's like, the socks and mittens dance. Then you're like, you have a whole props team that, you know, you say, hey, amazing props team, solve this problem. The socks and mittens dance. What are we going to do? The lamp moves. That's like, we had so many incredible tech moments with the lamp. We're like, okay, wait, back up. We got like this literally bends and there's someone, you know, kind of playing tug of war with Bunny backstage and the bed moves. Like all that was given in the creative vocabulary of the play. And then we got to solve for this production what were we going to do?
Sounds like it was a lot of fun.
Oh, so fun. Yeah. So fun.
The bear thing was amazing. I thought that was extremely clever.
And also the math and science, like this team, like our technical team, the technical directors, the amazing team of mathematicians where like the balloon, like we had maps of how it was going to work and like what the pivot was and literally like, great, this is the extension that happens here and this is the degree of the angle that you can count on to respond to it. So then as I was blocking it, I knew like, okay, great, here's the trajectory of the balloon and where Bunny needs to be in relationship to it. But they'd mapped it all out. And then we do like, it's all R&D where you get to like go down to the shop and they're like, this is what we're thinking. This is how the balloon moves. And you're like, yes, that's how, yes, it's exactly. The balloon being a character and it being that magical and that invisible in its mechanic is so wonderful and so successful.
Yeah, that one works really good.
Such a gift, this team.
Within the DCPA Theater for Young Audiences program, what other kind of programs are going on that parents and kids might want to know about? You have some instructional components of things, right?
So we kind of think of our work with the education team in three big pillars. So one of them is our on-site classes. So we have classes on Saturdays. We have a huge adult acting program. So that runs classes in the evenings all throughout the year. And then we have a big summer day camp program. So that's everything that happens on site where you can come and whatever age you are, come and take a class that's rooted in learning about theater. So they're all acting classes, improv classes, playwriting. And then we have our next pillar is all the in-school programming. So that's that partnering with curriculum and partnering with teachers. So we have a high school playwriting program that's out statewide right now. That's a free workshop that goes into any high school that's interested statewide to encourage high school students to write a one-act play and submit their play to the Colorado New Play Summit. So it's an amazing program to get those young writers activated and really put their voices into the world. So that's an active program. We have the Bobby G program. That's our high school musical theater program. That's a competition and awards ceremony to really celebrate high school musical theater. So that's been going on for a few years. That's also statewide. We have Shakespeare in the Parking Lot that we chatted about before. We partner with the DPS Shakespeare Festival to support that work in DPS and get into those schools and encourage schools to participate in that incredible Shakespeare Festival and really engender young people to Shakespeare's language and poetry and activating it, and they get to perform downtown. So we really, the in-school programming, tons of stuff happening. We have a bookstores program that is preschool literacy for preschool and kindergarten that goes out to schools really focused on gaining Title I schools and providing that program to those classrooms. We set up residencies where teaching artists go back and return and deliver stories for preschool students. It's really a fun program. So lots is happening in that in-school programming space. And then the last big pillar is experiencing live theater. So how students are coming to things like Goodnight Moon, but then also in middle school, I might come see 12th Night and partner with the student matinees with the theater company, and we build workshop experiences that are free to every participating school that a teaching artist will go to their school to do a pre or post show workshop to make their experience at the theater deeper. So maybe, teaching artists will go in and talk about the gender role and theme of 12th Night. So then we'll unpack that with the students and just continue their learning in their classroom beyond seeing the production.
Right. I'm sure that all sticks. I know for me, I grew up in near New York City on Long Island, and my grandmother loved Gilbert and Sullivan. And so I had the wonderful opportunity to go see all these Gilbert and Sullivan shows when I was like 10 and 12, you know, and you know, the schools used to be able to do like, you know, enrichment days, and we would go in and see Broadway shows, you know, matinees, you know. So, I mean, you know, and I'm still, you know, all these years later following theater. So it's really important to get to, you know, to kids early and expose them to that, because, you know, it's not everybody sees it, you know, so getting out there, that's great. So what would you say to parents or a community to encourage young people to see and get involved in theater?
I just, you know, it's absolutely stated in our mission, but I truly believe it 100% is the transformative power of storytelling. Is that how we learn about people, how you learn about yourself, how you learn about your peers, how you learn about the world. Like, I just think however you're involved in storytelling as an audience member going to see something or participating in what it means to tell a story or tell your own story, I just think that that is super powerful. And I really think that it's so core to humanity and how we move the world forward and keep conversations open and really start to learn about each other and build empathy and build how young people are viewing the world. And I think it's so important. And also, what an amazing thing to share with your family and to share with your young person, whatever age they are. You know, like spark a conversation. So spark a conversation with your teenager because you saw something together. That's an amazing thing. And also, I just, as my own self, like, I just am super thankful that I'm a curious person. Like, I just am excited to learn. I'm still so excited to learn things. And that was really from having arts and education be such a strong part of, you know, my upbringing and conversations that I have with my parents at the dinner table about, like, what are you thinking about? And what stories, and like just that, it's really powerful.
There's just so much to it, you know, and it's and like Brittany and I were talking a little earlier about all the different things here at the theater. You could be an actor or a director or a choreographer, or you could be doing lights or sound. I mean, there's so many opportunities. Also, if kids, you know, want to head in that path. But
absolutely.
Even without that, I always think kids that you know, get to do some acting when they're little, they're better at public speaking, you know, and they've got that confidence to go out there. And of course, all kids start as wonderful artists, whether it's painting and drawing or acting. And, you know, they start out that way. So you can usually get good performances out of them in just about anything. So so I know we're still right in the middle of this huge project of Goodnight Moon, but do you know what's next? What's coming up in the program?
That is a great question. I am actually going to email a playwright friend today because she has an adaptation that I'm interested in. And I think that will stay in sort of the vein of what are the storybooks that are on everybody's shelves, you know, in the preschool classrooms and kindergarten classrooms that, you know, where the teacher goes, oh my gosh, I was building curriculum around that. This is wonderful. We can connect immediately. What are the bedtime stories that families are sharing? And what are the librarians reading in the children's library? Like, how can we really connect to that? So then everybody kind of goes, oh yeah, that story is for me.
Yeah.
So we'll see. So there's so
many.
Way too
soon, I know.
No, it's not too soon. I need to actually, I'm a little behind. I need to make this decision.
Right. Yeah. Well, too soon to name names.
Yes.
At any rate. All right. Well, Allison Watrous, thanks so much for taking the time to talk to the OnStage Colorado podcast. Allison's the Executive Director of Education here at the Denver Center. And definitely, if you have children, you should get out to see Goodnight Moon. And you can just go to the denvercenter.org website and see all the information. And you can also check out my review on OnStageColorado.com. And we have a bunch of photos in there. And I think there's a video, too, to give an idea what the show's like.
Great. Great. Well, thank you so much. So fun. So fun to talk to you.
All right. Bye-bye. Well, thanks so much to Allison for taking time to talk with us about all of the wonderful things going on at the Denver Center for children, teens, and even adults interested in learning more about acting, playwriting, and more. And if you do have little kids, I highly recommend getting them out to see Goodnight Moon. It's really a great show. All right, in next week's podcast, we're talking with Lisa Wagner Erickson from Theater 29 in Denver about their upcoming show, a multi-playwright collaboration called Rites of Winter, and that's Rites, W-R-I-T-E-S, Hidden Worlds and Strange Negotiations. So I'm excited to hear about that. Until then, thanks for listening. Be sure to subscribe to the OnStage Colorado podcast, and we'll see you at the theater.